Hey, how you doing? This is George with Truck Driver Nation. So what we're going over here, I've seen some issues. Lots of these are built for students that actually come to school with us. And the reason I build this fill-in content is, helps a lot of people in different ways because we got it in written content, even have it in more of like a classroom setting type of deal. And we even go over it in the webinars. But I built this one. I'm gonna make this one public in the as far as in YouTube, so everybody can kind of see this. But this is people not understanding, um, and even these are some of the truck drivers. They not understand exactly how do I calculate. Not it doesn't matter which position you're in, whether I'm getting a load and that's my initial load, or I'm getting my load after I've already got one that's on the truck and it's en route, and I'm pre-booking my next load. How do I determine my time? And you think that would be a little bit easier said, or a little bit easier done than said, actually, because it's pretty much well common sense. You got your maps. Yeah, these days y'all don't even look at map books. Y'all, everything's computerized. I've even got calculators inside the course where you guys just put the information in there and it spits out all the answers on the end. So I would definitely use that. So for y'all that are doing the paid course, man, I don't, people not wanting to read, and get into what you paid me for. I don't know what else to do for you on that one. But this is I titled this Mastering Freight Dispatch Timing, How to Accurately Calculate Miles. We're talking about load feasibility, freight type of risk, because there are some freight risks. When you're talking about freight risk, we'll go over that, but and real world truck movement before you even book the load. So you're talking with the broker. Broker's going to want to know, and I'm saying, well, because first thing they're going to say to me, well, I'm checking on this load, and they probably ask me for my MC number, or it always depends on the point in the conversation. And I'll say, yeah, when does this load out? What time does it have to be picked up by? And they'll tell me, and I'll already have this in my mind even before I call them because I've already looked at the load. But I don't want to drag my feet because other people are looking for freight too. So you need to have your method already set up, whether you're going to go use Google Maps or you're using a calculator where you've already got it pre-set up, or you just happen to know. Lots of these numbers, you're going to get real familiar to know kind of where everything's at in reference to where your equipment's at. Now, if I'm pre-booking a load, remember, always got a lapse in that extra time to make sure that if he's en route, I see that he's supposed to be here, whether it's a first come, first serve or an appointment, I need to see when he's actually going to make it to that given destination, and then figure out about how long is it supposed to be to take to get unloaded. Can things go backwards and sideways? It's trucking. You probably should be able to answer that one for yourself, but I'll still give you the answer. Yes, absolutely, it can. So, average most of the time, when you're dealing with the freight, we give them a 2 hour window to get me unloaded and get me out the gate. That's the reason you're always going to get your bills stamped going through the gate, signed off, whatever form they're using. So that way I've got a time in and a time out. So that in case we get laid over, I wouldn't say layover detention time, then we obviously need to make sure that we can invoice if that was part of the rate con where we can obviously invoice for it and get you paid for that. But anyways, we'll go over this, and obviously this is not an all inclusive. I don't really lots of this I ad lib it off my head because I do it so much already. But we'll go through this scenario so you can watch it. And obviously, I put this in power. I use 3D paint, so I just left it in here. I didn't feel like going through everything because I'm kind of sick today. But anyways, the real job of a freight dispatcher, your job is to predict the time, not just look at the miles. Time is more important. Okay. Yeah, you're getting paid for the miles, but you got to make sure you understand how the time works out. And even in addition to the time zones. Remember, you're sitting in 4 different time zones in the United States. You need to understand your freight and the facility behavior. If you don't know what they behave like, just ask the broker. That's probably their customer. It may not just be a one-time deal. Yeah, it could be where they're saying they're giving them some extra freight. Hey, we'll give you these loads. Let's see if you can get them moved for us. But they're not going to just hedge their bet on one brokerage. They probably give them more than one brokerage so they can ensure that that freight gets sold or moved. Gets the necessary capacity for that truck actually gets moved. Um, know your driver. Know your truck. Know your driver. Is he lazy? I know you got drivers that are lazy. Hell, even I got lazy out on the road when I drove. I just get tired. You're tired of doing it. I'm tired of looking at the lines. I'm tired of fighting traffic. But you know that as their freight dispatcher, unless you haven't had them a long time. That's what's worse about company drivers. when you're dealing with big carriers, they're moving the drivers around the board. Oh, your new dispatcher is the da. Your new dispatcher is this. That. So as a driver, you know what it looks like because you're being moved around from dispatcher to dispatcher. And on the other side, they're moving around because they're losing trucks. They don't tell you this, but they lose a lot of drivers because we do truck driver recruiting. So they're losing those trucks and they're consolidating the drivers and moving around who they figure is the best fit for that given region of the United States. Also, the truck. You know, bigger fleets are probably going to have good trucks, but look, brand new trucks break down. And I mean brand new ones, straight off the floor. They just slapped the DOT and the MC number on it and the company name, and they got the paperwork lined up. They don't even have the plates on them sometimes, and they still break down. But does that driver have a piece of garbage for a tractor? Or is the trailer even dysfunction, you know? And obviously the hours of service. Always look at your ELDs to make sure they have adequate number of hours to complete the given task. Now, can they screw that up? Yes, if they're dragging out their 14-hour workday and they didn't cover the distance, I need to see, I don't care if you're going 72 miles an hour, there's no reason I shouldn't see over 700 miles on that given HOS hours of service if they were already loaded. Yes, if they got loaded, that eats maybe part into that 3 hours. It could eat more than that 3 hours that you have excess outside that 11 because you got 14 hours in that workday. But that being said, if I'm seeing that they're eating their own hours up, then they're playing. There ain't no excuse. You're a working individual. You chose in this industry. Now you got to perform. Prevent delays. Now traffic delays, storm delays, road closure delays, all that stuff, you know, depending on the software you use, some of the maps, even Google Maps will list some of them. But remember, you got to be up to speed and know where you're at in the United States. It's not always going to be the best way to determine the things, but if there are delays, even if they're unexpected delays, that driver needs to communicate back with you that those delays exist. Y'all got to be patient when you're doing this one. I'm kind of slow motion. It feels like my sinus is all jacked up. Violations and losses. Okay, violations. I don't know how you'll look at this one. I'm assuming I would take this in the aspect if they went to let's say if they were a car hauler and they went and picked up freight, right? And they got stopped at a DOT station and they decide they want to look at their logbook. So they're looking at their ELD. So that has the HO hours and they see there's 9 cars up in there and they're counting them up. Now, whether they pick more than one car up at one given location or they didn't mark down a card, that's simple grounds for shutting you down for 10 hours and being out of service for failure to document being in compliance with your logbook. So they can shut you down 10 hours. Now, that is a violation. It's going to be a pretty significant violation because it's a violation for the driver and for who's ever MC that number that driver's running under as well. And I'm going to leave it at that. Losses, are they damaging stuff? Now you got a delay because they got to the shipper or receiver, and now they got OS&D, over shortages and damages. There's other stuff outside what I'm saying. Now, this is just a straight line, just to make you think. But if they got over shortages and damages, okay, let's say we got a damage. Or we got a product, let's say if we're going to a grocer, man, they don't want that load. They're like, that too much shit mixed in that load. Whether you got it from the shipper and it was already damaged, it wasn't brought down, it wasn't pulped correctly, or it wasn't brought down to temperature because you have to pulp it. That's finding the core temperature inside the product to make sure that the temperature is not too high because it starts to biodegrade as it goes because that time is money and biodegradable stuff. It is really, you may think, well, okay, it's a 2-day drive from point A to point B, but 2 days is a lot of time for produce. Okay, if you don't know what produce really does, you need to study up on it. If you're going to deal with reefer, you got to stay on it. I want to know the times. Now, yes, they got reefer units now that are completely able to log in with software. You can see what that is. We used to have timer boxes. We used to have to take a pulp monitor and stick it in there, pulp on it. But once the doors are sealed, that's it. I can put it in the back doors and swing the doors open and make sure the temperature is good. But, make sure your bottom grates and your top sheet, your skirt is full, so it's blowing that cold air all the way to the rear of that trailer. But those type of things, when you get to a receiver, for example, and where they got the Department of Agriculture or somebody that's on their own team that's evaluating the product and they don't want it, now you got a delay because now that stuff's still sitting in your trailer. They're not going to take it if they take any of it at all. And they'll adjust the bills accordingly. Now you got to get back a hold of the broker and figure out what are we doing with this product. Okay. Lots of times, if it ain't much, they'll tell you to throw it in the dumpster. Now, like me, we had a bunch of chicken one time. I drug that chicken all the way back to my mom and daddy's house, and we filled up the freezers. And I still had product that we picked up from other places, and I put it on there, and I put the other product in the back, and I knew it was sustained because I know I was running teams. I knew how fast that me and my brother, we were driving. We could cut across the United States fast enough to get that back home to where we would go and drop that off, and then go on down to where we the receivers to drop that product off. But you got to know what you're doing, even as a driver. Okay. But that being said, if you have to take that to another place, like say if it's produce they don't want, you might take it to a secondhand fruit. Let me tell you something. They don't throw nothing away. Okay. Whether they buy it for a number of price or they write it off, they're giving it charity, everything has to have a paper trail where that went to. Okay. So there's never something that's not going to generate some value to somebody in some degree. So always be aware of that. But moving on, protect the truck, the driver, and the carrier. Now, you as the freight dispatcher, that is your job. You got to make things as efficient as possible and make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible so you're not actually causing excessive delays and problematic issues that you should have asked the broker ahead of time. If I'm going somewhere and there's somewhere near, I'm going to ask some questions. Do you even know this place? I mean, you're telling me I get there, it's a first come, first serve. How long by the time I get in the gate, it's first come, first serve. And I project myself arriving at X time because I can look at my book and I could kind of determine how long it's going to be for my driver. Even if he's still dropping off, I can give a pretty good estimation within an hour or two. I'm not saying it's usually that bad, but I always expect something to come up. But I always run my trucks at 55 miles an hour. That's what I'm figuring them out at. But that being said, to make sure that if I get there, how long does it take me to get in there? Are they hostile? Are they going to get, how's the shipping department or receiving department, all that stuff. And you need to check on both ends when you're booking the load with a broker so you can determine what's going on. But a lot of dispatchers don't ask these questions because they don't have a particular way of, pattern of asking, and they just assume it's going to be okay. Those single questions can solve you, even if you're hurting for freight and you're trying to negotiate out the loads and you're not able to get nothing that particular day. It's better for you to go ahead and find out. Okay. So that being said, the real question is, can this truck realistically complete this load without breaking time, law, or equipment or destroying product? Now, real truck time versus GPS miles. GPS assumes car speeds, no traffic, no stops, no way stations, no loading delays. When you pull it up, that is what it assumes. It's not calculating any of the realities of the real world. Real truck driving includes your fuel stops, your traffic and your construction, your scale hazards, your weather, your parking delays. Your parking delays could even be they can't even find out where to park the damn thing. Loading and unloading time, not including even they got to shut down and sleep. Okay. Once they run out of work time, drive hours, that's it. The day's over for at least 10 hours. So that being said, and thing is, are they going to sleep full 10 hours? Are they going to get up and be ready by the time they reach the end of the clock? It's not my job to sit there and play babysitter. My job is to determine this is what we're doing. This is what you're looking at. So if I was working for somebody, the man's going to ask me, whoever the hell it is I work for, what's going on? Well, driver X ain't doing his job. Okay. I'm not going to sit there and give explanations on everything he's doing because I'm not his damn mother. But I'm going to tell you this, the numbers from what I'm seeing, and I know what's going on. I was a truck driver for 24 years, but they're not performing according to the way I will perform. Now, if I need time off and I'm tired, you just better off bringing me to the house. Or we're going to be playing this up and down thing with the ELD the whole time I'm out. And I'm not going to be profitable myself and not going to be profitable your truck. And we're still burning fuel if I'm a company driver. If I'm owner operator, I'm just shutting it down. I'd rather put it on my generator out of the truck and just sit for some days, get out and walk around, find me somewhere, take an Uber, go somewhere, do something. Okay. But anyways, so the next thing is you need to consider is we've got to talk about this miles per hour. I mean, the 55 mile per hour rule. This is the rule that I use. You do whatever you want. The reason I use this is because back when I first started driving trucks, old timer, right? But that being said, the United States Department of Transportation apparently did a study with the United States Postal Office. From my initial understanding, when I used to work for KLLM, right there out of Richland, Mississippi, they actually taught us some stuff. And every place I ever went to, they used to teach you stuff. I don't know what they teach you now. Seems like the hell they don't even care where you got your license from. But that being said, they taught us how that even came about. So it was a week-long training, and it stuck to me to this day. So when people are going to take, if you got a company, you're looking at this, I appreciated it. It stuck with me for my life, and I remember these things. So they scheduled it at 55 miles an hour. And so accelerating too fast burns too much fuel. Accelerate your truck at a relative decent speed. They used to be where they want you to, like when you was on cruise, knock off the cruise when you're going down a steep grade, and then right before you get to the bottom, kick your cruise back on. Okay. Obviously, you might have to downshift and stuff, but that was the way that they were figuring it out on the best way to conserve fuel. So I remember a trainer I had with me, the first person I with that I almost murdered because he was talking that trash, thinking he's somebody, and he didn't realize I was a redneck white trash kid coming from Mississippi and raised in Alabama. I give a shit who you are. You will respect me while I'm inside your truck, or I will take your truck from you. But that being said, not cruise off, put cruise on. Not cruise off, put cruise on. And I didn't particularly wasn't questioning. I was like, jump through the hoops. It's his little kingdom. Let it play his game. He gets paid for this. Make him feel like he did his job. And I complied. But he got a little bit out of hand there for a while. And of course, obviously, my brothers did too, because by the time we made it back to the terminal, he didn't punch the guy that he was with in the mouth. Okay. So that being said, I use 55 miles an hour to do my average. So I take the 55 miles an hour, mile per hour. Losing my voice, I told you. I use the 55 miles per hour and I average the movement speed for realistic drive time. It creates a buffer. It protects service because we provide a service, we don't produce nothing, and it keeps you legal. Okay, in your ELD, your HOS. Remember, they're really the same thing. Electronic logging device is where you mark, that's your logbook these days, where you mark your hours of service. So you take your estimated drive hours with your total miles, divide it by your 55, and that gives your estimated drive hours. So example here is we got 660 miles divided by 55, which is going to equivalent to 12 hours of drive time. Now, you may need to add buffers. You may need to add loading time, traffic light, delays, sleep time. We're just talking about the 55 miles per hour, what that's going to look like in the total number of miles that you have, including your deadhead miles. Make sure when you do your negotiation with the broker that you're getting paid for your deadhead. They don't want to pay for it. I'm going to tell you what, I see so many TikTok videos with these guys in here negotiating, and I literally, listen, guys, I'm going to tell you a secret. I've got 3 monitors here, okay? I literally have this right here. Now, you can't see it. It's a tablet. It sits right here on the right side of my desk. I turn it on. I turn my AI on. Let that video run, okay, because I'm a multitasker, right? Turn the video on. Let GPT record it. Then I turn that off. It's recorded the whole conversation, unless they got some Eastern European bullshit slang because they didn't learn our language correctly. Then I take it and ask AI, what are the best, what's the pros and the cons of that given thing? What did he make per hour? I ask all those questions so I can see where they made mistakes. Okay. And a lot of them do take freight that is underpriced. If they're taking freight and they think that they think they're profitable and they may be meeting the mark for their given owner operator, all I can tell you is that they are missing by a long shot because I wouldn't take freight that cheap. So that means if they're doing it on the video, they're probably giving you their best moments versus what their worst ones are. I would take these videos and I would actually do an audit on whoever you need to do to see if you would want to deal with that given company. So for you owner operators that are seeing those videos, that may not be the best people you want to go dealing with. But anyways, number 4 is pickup types. So open pickup. Okay, an open pickup is first come, first serve. That's anytime, a work-in, more flexible, lower risk. Appointment pickup is going to be more concise, specific time required, high risk if late. It could be even a penalty with it. Hell, they may even make you totally reschedule for the next day. Now you're having to call the broker and say, hey, the guy didn't make it. Yeah, you can give him that excuse. He's not going to care. He's going to reschedule it. And if there was a penalty in the rate confirmation, you're eating it. They do all kinds of stuff to get money off of you. Okay. So don't act like they don't. They do. And if I was in their booth, would I do it too? I don't know. I say actually, probably I would. I'm from the United States, you know. But that being said, keep that in mindsight. Now, the first come, first serve FCFS if they use the acronym. Trucks may be lined up. You may get there. What if there's, I've went to places where there were 30 or 40 trucks lined up. And I was like, well, gonna go to, so let's just check in. That's back when we even some, it was even, I'll even go back further when we used to have our CBs and you put it on channel 9. You know, most places went with channel 9. You put it on there and you're supposed to wake up and hear the damn CB going off when they're hollering off of you. But the problem is, every time they ever got any other truck, it's going off. You're waking up kind of like this in a stupor. Was that my truck they called? You know, and then you're not sure because you could have swore they called you. You go wobbling your butt over there because sometimes they'll just turn it up, ask the number, send them to whichever door, and then turn their mic down because they're not wanting to hear it because they're in the receiving department or whatever office. So they turn down. So you got to go wobbling up there. Let's use a best case scenario. Probably is the best case scenario. Be in the middle of the dark, wind's blowing, cold as hell, and you're wobbling up there, waiting in line there just fine. Did you call my truck? Because you don't want to miss your door because it's first come, first serve. If you get out of line, they're going to go to the next truck. But that happens. Sometimes they were decent enough to have somebody come out there and get you, but just keep that in mind. Let's see, wait times and parking. What if you didn't have parking? Okay. Now I get there and I told you like there's 30-something trucks. I've seen them going down the side of the road. Usually they've already worked something out with the local police department where they don't come out there. Everybody's idling their truck. You know, nowadays everybody's against idling. You know, it burns a lot of fuel. Fuel's so damn expensive that you really can't afford to idle. So you need to have some kind of EPU or APU or some kind of external generator like an Onan that's running off of diesel. If you got a super sleeper like a Legacy or something, you know what I mean? So you got to accommodate that given problem. But keep that in mind when you're looking at your pickups, right? Sorry about that, y'all. I'm jiggling this thing around. And so let's go on to, and remember the type of truck, the trailer that you have, oh, excuse me, is going to be a big difference in what you're looking at with these pickup and delivery times. Okay. So let's say, for example, freight type and load time matter. Okay. So dry van, most predictable, is usually palletized, fast loading, fast unloading, most consistent timing. Still ask about the first come, first serve and delays if they apply. Load time, usually 30 minutes to 2 hours. That's about right. You know, reefer, higher delay risk. Okay. You got temp checks, you got the USDA inspection stations, not including when you go into that given receiver. You could be waiting on an officer from the USDA just to show up before they either send it out or receive it. Produce, meat delays, because they got to look at the product. They're going to check the products. Okay. Receivers can be very slow, extremely slow. Okay. They're bringing it in, they're palletizing it. It may already be palletized, but they call it tie and high. It's how many per tier, per level, and then how high that is. So they may have to go down and break them down. We used to go break ours down, make a little extra money, freeze our butts off, because we didn't have the right gear to wear, but we wanted to make that extra money, and we'd do it. Load time, it really could be 1 to 6 hours. Unloading time could be 12 hours plus. I'm slowing down because I want you to hear that. I want that needs to set in with you. It could be 1 pick, 1 drop. It could be 5 picks, 1 drop, 5 picks, 2 drops. Okay. Keep in mind about that. So flatbed, that's a variable risk. Now, most flatbeds are easier done because they don't have to usually go to a loading dock. You pull up, they got forklifts, they got cranes, other stuff, the way to learn this. But what's going to be your biggest delay? Tarping time, untarping time. That's the reason you want to make sure you get paid for your drivers. Tarping and untarping that stuff. Get unloaded and loaded. Securement, chain checks. Even if you don't, people do not know. If you say, well, okay, we're going to give you a securement class. Okay. Whoever it is that's giving a securement class, you need to make sure they know how to secure that stuff. Get them to send you pictures. But if you don't know securement, I don't know why in the hell I'm even telling you that, because if you don't know how to secure, one, you could kill somebody. You could kill your own self. Okay. A lot of those trailers nowadays, they used to have it where everybody had to have a bulkhead. Now they got where they started getting lenient on it. If you got a sleeper, that kind of thing, they're saying, well, you don't have to have a bulkhead, or headache rack type of deal. So you got to be sure about what that's going to look like. Weather delays. There's always when weather delays, it causes a problem with these flatbed step. Remember, some of this stuff gets really slick when that snow and that ice hits it. So you got to be careful about what goes on. Job site, cranes scheduling, because when the weather delays applies to this. When they get there and it's nothing but a mud hole, where are you going to put that stuff at? Okay, you can't just dump it out there in the highway, and they don't want to get the product ruined. There's been a lot of stuff tore up big time, load shift, the dunnage actually break. Then you got the pipes shifting to one side or the other. You got to figure out with the broker, are we going to get a crane out there to restabilize that load before the whole trailer? If they're pulled over to the side of the road, the trucks like that, they could be pulled over. In addition, if that freight's leading toward that way, you could take the whole truck and the trailer with it. Crane scheduling, get somebody that's supposed to be there, whether it's a crane or a forklift, to get there to get that product off of there. The dispatcher should actually be making sure that's there. Don't just call the place where you're picking up. Go ahead and call the place that's receiving. Say, hey, I'm calling you about load, da-da-da. That truck's going to be there on X time. I need to make sure that equipment's going to be there to get this trailer unloaded. And I don't care what you tell them after that. Right? We got another load pending all that. So make sure you get the layover or detention pay, because you got to understand something. If the broker's not wanting to give you that load or detention pay, they may know something that you don't, and that's the reason they're not giving it. So why are you resistant on giving me load and detention pay? You know that every truck you sent there, the last 20 loads, that 85% of them have been delayed, and now you might want to pay it because it comes out of your pocket. So keep that in mind. I could make this into a big long spiel, but I'm trying not to. Step deck, variable risk. Step decks actually do, whether it's an RGN trailer or a standard step deck, they do over dimensional. So we're talking about over width, over height, whether it's going to be permanent or not. They also do LTL, which is less than truckloads, because now I got a 10.5-foot riser, and then I got the rest dropped off of whatever additional level, depending on what the length that trailer was. So based on my slots, what can I put on? What can I get off? It's going to need a forklift to get that middle one off. If I'm dropping number 2 off earlier than number 3, I do have ramps on my trailers. All the step decks I get have ramps on them. You ain't got ramps, go get ramps, and then I can dispatch you, because it leaves too much freight sitting on the board that I can't utilize because you don't have the right stuff on your trailer. And make sure to like those ramps. People will steal them. But that being keeping in mind, the permits, because of this over-dimensional, over-width, or whatever it is going to be, route restrictions based on the weight because you're getting higher, but you can't go really over the gross unless you start doing more axles. So, but they might have a restriction just on the width. It cannot be way under the weight and just be over width or even over height. Car haulers, we do about 14.2. But we got a good GPS. I always had a Garmin that always kept me out of the bridges. I didn't always trust it. And remember, the height on a bridge is always going toward the lower height. So the upper height is usually plenty clearance. So if you get the one and it's a flat bridge, now you got a problem, because the highest point could be the same all the way across, and you could be really tight. You going in there doing like a basketball where your truck and your trailer could obviously take out the top rack of Mercedes or Lamborghinis or whatever. So you got to keep that in mind. Again, crane, forklift needs, the height and dimension checks. If you don't have a pole stick like we do with car hauling, you need to get up there and measure that height. Ain't nobody going to care what you got to say after the fact when you done took out a couple of $1 million worth of a bridge. Okay. Train tracks are probably not going to give. They're probably going to win. But that being said, keep that in mind. Make sure to read your signs. Your driver needs to read signs, but you need to make sure. You got to understand, I'm taking this from a driver's point of view and a dispatcher's point of view, but you need to know this. Job site delays are common. Delays, there are common because of weather. They can't get in there. The roads are all tore up. It wasn't even a road anyway. It's a grader that just spread something out. And make sure that the ground ain't soft. You're going to pay a lot of money getting a tow truck in there to pull your equipment off there. And if you're low, because if you're doing a low boy or even a step deck, I don't take much to bog all the way up past some tires. And now your bottom of your trailer is sitting on the ground. And that tractor, even when you kick in the differential, is not going to pull that trailer out of there. Unless you unload it, and maybe still won't. Okay, where are we at now? I keep moving this around. Sorry, y'all. So I'm getting irritated. So I'm playing with my motions. Well, I'll move it over. All right. So the next thing we're going to look at, number 6, what are you picking up? You need to know what you're sticking in that trailer. If that broker can't tell you, that means he didn't do his homework. So what are you picking up? Understand the freight before you book it. Is it palletized freight? That means it's on a palletized. Is it been boxed up like this one right here? So palletized freight is faster loaded, even weight distribution because they know which one each one weighs. And I always ask, is that including the pallet or is it just the freight? Because the pallets could be another 2,500 pounds. Yeah, and even weight distribution, because when you put it in there, you can go double, single, or however you're going to stack it in there. There's different ways of stacking it in there. Easier to scale. One reason it's not going to shift neither. Make sure you do your securement correctly. It's more predictable. So that's the best reason for palletized. Non-palletized freight can be one serious bitch. You're talking about scrap coils. I don't play with coils. Machinery, bulk loads, even including liquids, loose products, pipe, like batteries. They put them on pallets, but hell, batteries are shipped off the thing. Uneven weight, heavy here, not heavy. How are you gonna lay it all out so it gets there? Usually the shipper, their guys on those forklifts should know how to get it on there correctly. But if you got something that's all over the place, you need to make sure there's a scale around real close before you hit a scale house. I've been in that position, had to abandon a whole trailer, and the company took care of it, and it was their little dispatcher's mouth. They said, "Oh, I'll handle it." Okay, so make sure you cover your bases. Okay, as a broker, as a dispatcher, make sure you cover your bases with the broker. That they know where the scale house is at. Don't miss your steps. The driver's going to be pissed off at you. Okay, he don't want to hear your excuses. He's got a problem. He's out there on that truck. So make sure you cover your bases. More securement. You can't give too much securement. Okay, so if it's something that needs more straps, I know what the minimum is. Okay, overstrap the damn thing. Takes you a little bit more time, but it keeps you from killing somebody, killing yourself, flipping that truck, the load shifting, and all that other stuff. Higher damage risk, absolutely, because it's hard to secure every little piece. You do your best. That's all you can do. It's not saying I've damaged stuff. Any driver says he's never damaged stuff, I'll call you now, you're a liar. But everybody damages stuff. Who's going to pay for it? You hope that you ain't, but because of car hauler, I definitely have bought some stuff in my time. Longer load times, yes. Some of it might be on the floor. You know, you don't know. It just depends on the items. I'm not going to get too diverse with that, but keep that in mind. Can the freight fit? Can the freight fit and is it safe? So will it fit the trailer? We're talking about the length, height, and the width. Can it damage the trailer, the floors, the walls? Don't go shooting nails into my floor. Okay, unless I know what you're doing back there, don't just assume anything. I'll charge you for damages. Okay. That being said, you got to make sure you keep these things in mind. You don't want to damage your trailer walls. You will have to get them fixed. If they close the doors and they see light coming in your trailer, that's going to make you exempt from a lot of loads because they don't want no leakage in your trailer. Will weight be balanced properly? Even big rolls of paper. I've been tilted and I was already gone. I just, you're running the hills of Virginia with that types of load. You're risking your life. Does it require special securement? You need to know that. Make sure you ask your brokers. Is there anything special about this when it comes to, especially something that's loose? Can it shift or overload the axles? Well, he's going to actually go check. He should be going to a scale house that's over a certain level of gross, but some of them have pressure gauges. I have pressure gauge based on my pressure gauges on my alpha off my airbags. I knew whether I was probably heavy or not, and I'd go to a scale house. But you need to know if it's not in a rack or something, could it shift? Okay, it's not just will it fit, it's can it be hauled safely and legally? That being said, ain't nobody gonna appreciate no tickets, but these are the questions that you need to ask as a freight dispatcher to ensure the compliancy of that given freight. Load time and facility factors. Is it live load or drop? So it's live, drop and pickup. A lot of trucks actually do live load, live unload. They keep that trailer the whole time. Other companies do mainly 95% drop and hook. They got so many trailers, they can do that. Average load time, what does it take? Ask them that. Appointment strict or flexible? Ask them that. Can I get in there earlier? If I know that I can get my guy there earlier. Forklift, hand load, or crane. What's going to be needed to get that freight on and off that trailer, either in and make sure it's there. Don't just ask the broker. Call and make sure. Lumpers required? If so, how much? Who's paying? Okay. Is that going to be figured into the overall rate, are you going to pay for this after I get there? We get a receipt and you give it back, and then you reimburse it. And make sure you get the new factory sheet, the rate confirmation sheet, that's been added. Any adjustments need to be added to that finalized rate con sheet, or you're not going to get paid for it. First come, first serve line are empty, type of deal. Some places you can just come first serve. They'll let you drop the trailer and they'll give you a call when it's loaded up. I don't necessarily like that. It's actually bit me a couple of times. Detention pay policy, detention and layover. Make sure you understand those and how that actually works out. Not just that you got it, but what are the parameters for getting detention pay or layover. All right. Number 9, scale questions you must ask. Ask, is there a scale on site or nearby? You're going to need to know where that scale is at. If it's going to be one of those loads, that guy says, well, you're doing 46,500. Can my truck take it? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how much fuel we got in the truck. I don't want my driver stopping every 200 or 300 miles to have to fuel up with just a little bit to get it on the truck, or is he actually have a real light piece of equipment and a light trailer? Many loads are estimated, loaded by volume, loaded by time. Feeds, like seeds that come out of the crops, they'll put them on a conveyor belt and they'll run that thing all the way up in your truck, and they'll get you to pull your trailer for it, or the ramp could go for it on itself, and they'll time it by the minute. Like sorghum, some other grains and stuff, they're really heavy. It don't look like there's much in there, but that damn stuff's seriously heavy. Load by volume. Okay, apples, more or less. Well, you could say liquids loaded by volume, but like apples are loaded by the case. I've never really done a lot about the loaded by volume, so I'm having to assume that that's what it's meaning. So keep that in mind. And estimated, some loads are straight estimated. Well, we think it is. They're not actually weighing out each pallet or whatever it is. They'll stick it in there, and that's going to be up to you to go find out. If they got a scale there, that's going to be whatever. But if I keep having to go back and rescale and get them to shuffle around, that's still not right. I'm still over on this, over that. That means even though they didn't know it, remember, they're pulling that off, readjusting it, but it's still a guess. Okay. So make sure if I have to keep going back and back, I definitely might seek that there's some kind of, pay adjustment, because I'm having to run. It's my time as a driver, and I get pissed off really quick. So don't think I'm going to sit there and play Mr. Patient all the time. But anyways, legal gross weight equals to legal axle weight. I'm sorry. Legal gross weight does not always equal to legal axle weight. So check your steers, check your drive, check your trailer tandems. It's a 12, 34, 34. Total gross weight, average truck is 80,000 pounds. And so you as a dispatcher should have the data that tells you how much that truck weighs with the tractor and the trailer and completely filled with fuel. So if you don't know those numbers, you need to know those as a freight dispatcher, because you need to know what you're dealing with. Now, region, time difference, you need to understand when you're actually figuring out how much time you got to get from point A to point B to make sure you're there for them people. So remember, we're using 55 miles per hour. So whatever number of miles you got, you're dividing it out, and then you're including all the different factors that may be included for, let's just use, I'm going to use one I know, Atlanta to Houston. Okay, Atlanta to Dallas. I know it's about 1,000 miles. I'm going to divide it out by, I'm going to go and do 50 because I can do this in my head. 50 hours means I got 10 hours to drive, right? So 1,000 divided by, that's going to give you 10 hours, right? But that's 10 hours. What's my load time going to be like? Am I going to need to take a break? Okay, so that being said, you're going to have to figure that out. So give me a second here. I want to show you something. One moment. So if I'm going to do, give me one second. I don't know what I'm thinking about my break time. Something hit me, and then I was right. Holy crap. It's going to be 20 hours. It's actually going to be like 18 hours and something if you do it by 55. So if I'm taking my 20 hours, I'm going to run about 10 hours one, 10 hours the other day. So I know I've got a 10-hour break in there somewhere. So that being said, what's it going to look like time-wise? Because remember, he's got 14 hours to run. How much is it going to take him to pick up? So now he's got the truck loaded. He's going to run whatever he's got. So I'm going to say that let's say he's kind of close. So he's already knocked an hour of drive time off. He's used an hour or whatever to get loaded. Now he's got only about 10 hours to drive. So he's going to drive, I think, from Atlanta, probably make it. I don't know if he make it to Mississippi. I don't know if he make it to Jackson or not. I'm not sure. But anyways, wherever he makes that 10 hours, he's going to stop there, and that's where he's going to take his 10-hour sleep break. Then he's going to get back up, do his pre-trip inspection. That's a 30 minutes, and then haul butt the rest of the way. So it's not just that given 20 hours if I'm dividing it by 50. I got to figure in all those other variables that's going to accumulate to when I'm picking up and when I'm going to get to Dallas. So out of that, then I'm going to figure out, okay, I know when a price me is going to be there, how much time it's going to take him to get off. So let's say if it's going to be, if I know the place and we're using a scenario, these are I'm saying that we pretty much well know. So we get there, we know it's going to take an hour to get it off. We know the place is slow. We've been there before. We know we can basically go in there. Let's say they even know who we are. We get in there, get into a dock, and let's say they got 3 forklifts in there all the time. And those guys, someplace I go to, it's like they were stealing it. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm empty. Okay. So now I can go and start now thinking about I need to go ahead and pre-plan my next trip. If you don't know these variables within pretty good consistency, be real careful when you're pre-booking your next trip. If anything, might get so that if it picks up an X number of time, you got plenty of hours ahead of that load so that you don't get too tight, but don't have your truck sitting 8 hours to pick that load up neither. Well, you got me a preload. Yes, I took it, but now I've got to sit another 8 hours, which is still eating into my clock. It's going to make me have to do another reset before I can even get that load. I hope that makes sense. If it don't, you need to really think about what I said, reverse this back up and listen to it again. So we're looking at 20 hours plus another 10 hours. This is what I would do. Atlanta there's that's 20 hours. I'd add 10 hours in it, and I would go and add the 4 hours in it, 2 hours on each end to get loaded. Okay. So that right there means I got 34 hours that I know it's going to take me to get from there to there. I would go with that a minimum. I know I should pretty much well be safe. And then I would pre-book my load. But I go by 55. I'm just using 50, so we got a conversation here. But that being said, that's what I would do. And then I would pre-book my load. And whether you want to give it another hour or whatever time from that point to where it's picking up, let's say it's another hour from where he's dropping, where he picks up, go ahead and add that other hour on there. So now you're adding that hour, but you're still within a tight enough time set that that load, you really want first come, first serve at that point. But if you get that schedule, say, well, we can be there by this time. Can you set that up? But on the same token, I'm pre-booking this, ask them, I'm pre-booking this. I want to make sure that I'm not getting myself in a corner. Okay. I can be there possibly by this time, but if I have to, do I still got another 2 or 3 hours in there to play with? Don't limit what you're saying to the broker because you're scared, well, he's not going to give it to me. He works in the real world. He wants that freight sold, so he quit dealing with it. The only other thing you got outside that is negotiate that rate. So don't just hand this away. Think about every step you're doing. Get your retard sheet, write your notes down, so that way you don't miss it. All right, region time zone differences. Okay, so what we got really, I guess you could say slower. We got it set up here as fast regions, slow regions, and mountain regions. Yeah, this is pretty close. There's some exceptions in here that I wouldn't totally agree with because I've driven all these roads. But like say for fast regions, it's saying Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Dakotas. Yeah, they're open because there ain't nothing out there. You wreck that damn truck pretty much well in some of those open areas. You ain't gonna kill nobody but yourself. Slow regions, I would say anything on the eastern seaboard, anything, man, anywhere up next to that water on the eastern seaboard. It's been here longer than anything. Okay, that's where the original 13 colonies were, and that's how I look at it. All that's going to be a cluster. Okay, when you get out into that Midwest, not a lot out there. A lot of people don't want to live out there. It's hard access to water and stuff like that. But there's some big cities out there still, though. You know, you got Colorado and other places. But a lot of those towns, you go through them, hell, they ain't changed really even since I started driving trucks. Mountain regions, it's not just the regions. You also got snow problems. Yes, the weight's pulling you back, but they shut these roads down sometimes, especially Colorado going across 70, anything going to Twin Sisters. That's up by the Wyoming, cutting across to Utah. Anywhere cutting up there toward Oregon, Washington is going to be problematic. Nebraska, Idaho, stuff like that. The weather comes in, you got a big problem. So keep that in mind. Pennsylvania, West Virginia, that's just pure mountains, curvy as a snake's ass, and it's going to slow you down all the way. Especially if you're overweight, you're working those brakes pretty good. So, you know, and you got to know some of these places don't pull around. Your driver's going to get a lot of tickets if he tries to force it. So make sure you give him plenty of time where he's not having to force his hand to push, push, push. Okay. Also, keep in mind, where's the parking? I know I didn't mention that in this, but remember, some of these places got bad, whatever, for parking. Number 12, driver performance matters. Two drivers, same miles, different results. Okay, so what we're talking about, driver speed, stop frequency, sleep patterns, city avoidance, because I'll go around a city in a heartbeat. Night versus day driving, know your driver, know your results. So I got two men driving the same way based on just these basic factors. They're absolutely going to look at the problem and handle the problem differently based on their work performance, based on their experience, based on the load, based on road conditions, weather, stuff like that. So keep that in mind. You need to keep that in mind on every load. What are we dealing with? Keep your weather channel on a separate TV. Watch that weather channel. You need to know what's going on in the weather on the whole United States. I would do the weather channel and even use where they're going to, from and to, and even run the data on that to make sure of what you're looking at for that given region when you're running these loads. Okay, major time killers. Traffic, it's always been bad, but these days it's worse. It's like we breed like rats or something. It's just all over the place when it comes to this. Weather's weather. You know, we got all 4 seasons in the United States. Make sure you know what you're going into. Make sure there's always more lag time for the winter months in the Northwest going up that direction, anything north of the United States. Also heat's your enemy too. Heat plays hell on tires. It'll cause them tires to pop. So keep that in mind as well. Wind, it'll blow them trucks over. I never went on a road anything over 70 miles an hour if I didn't weigh at least 25,000 pounds plus in my trailer. Ice, no go. You need to shut the truck down. Okay. Snow, you can drive on. Just back down the speed, the weather conditions. If you're having a whiteout, shut it down. Scale houses, 30 minutes to an hour. A lot of them have pre-passes now. Some of them just have a quick pass. Some of them are just shut down. The states can't even afford to run them. Fuel stops. If you're fighting to get fuel, get off the interstate to go into a truck stop just to get you a snack is 30 minutes. Okay. That means you didn't do nothing. Let's say that I went there, nobody was on the fuel line. I pulled right up on the fuel line, got out of the truck, went in, took a piss, grabbed me something to eat, got in the line to get the food, get out back out of there, get back in the truck, and get the truck back moving. And so I actually got back onto the pavement up there on the interstate about 30 minutes. And that's rocking and rolling, no playing around. Parking delays at night can add hours. Literally, I have went from truck stop to truck stop to truck stop. Finally, end up hitting an exit ramp, pull off there, go to sleep, get woke up by the state troopers. So keep that in mind. Parking is an absolute mother these days. And you don't want to just park somewhere if you got high value loads. You don't want that driver just parking anywhere. But you know, if you can I've never really tried to do this, but you know, whether they want to do paid parking, they absolutely can pay for it. I don't think you'll be able to get that out of the brokers. I never ever have. I think that's just me running my mouth on that one. But that being said, get your drivers, if they know where they're going, go ahead and get on the app. Everybody's got an app nowadays, whether it's Petro, Truck Stop, TA, Flying J, Loves, etc. Get them to get on the app and schedule them a parking spot so it's theirs. Loading and unloading can add hours. Remember, ask the broker about loading and unloading. What kind of issues do they know about? That should be a regularly asked questions on any load. Okay, dispatch decision framework. Can the truck, you need to ask these at the end, okay? So can the truck legally make it, the hours of service? Can the truck realistically make it? Okay, that's going to be time plus buffer. That's time frame wise. Can the freight be loaded efficiently? What are we talking about our load times? Can the freight be hauled safely? Weight to the axle ratio versus my gross weight type of deal. Is it going to need to be permitted? What's the height? All that type of stuff. And include, make sure there's somebody to get the damn stuff off if you're doing flatbed or step deck, for example. Excuse me, y'all. Can delays be absorbed if they happen? In other words, can I just really and truly, can I adjust my delivery times? Because when they say they quit, look, if they say they only accept freight between 11 and 3 p.m., 11 a.m., 3 p.m., that's a real problem. So do you want to take that risk? Make sure you're not just rolling the dice. This ain't a roulette table. Make sure that you're factoring in these problems based on your driver and talk to your driver. See what he feels like. If you don't feel good, he's tired, he's old like me, I'm going to say, dude, I'll be honest with you. I'm always going to tell you no. I was like, as mad as I want to make it, I used to could do it, but now these days I just can't. It's just the way life is. I'm 55. So that being realistic, I would be probably better off fit for carriers now just doing short runs. If any answer is uncertain, do not book the load. That's your lifesaver there. If there's an uncertainty, don't book it. A freight guard will screw your MC up. Okay. And that could come from any of those variables, whichever way it pans out. You can't, if it's a no go, then it's a no go. Now, pro dispatcher principles. Now, if you're going to be a professional dispatcher, you need to calculate the worst case scenario, not just best case. I always go with the worst case. Worst case keeps me out of trouble. The best case is that's never a problem because it's the best case. Then it turned out okay. At least I didn't meet the worst case. Always add buffer time. And the buffer time is a lifesaver. Okay. Oh, I'm going to tighten up. We can do it. Man, you're sitting behind the damn computer. He's out there driving the truck. Don't speak for the driver. Make sure you know. Verify everything. Don't just assume. Assumptions, go ahead and assume, and that's going to come back to bite you. Go through your steps. Make sure you don't miss your steps. When we fly airplanes, I don't care if you memorize it backwards and forwards, what you're supposed to do before you get on the taxi runway, everything, you still have a checklist. Keep you a checklist and run that checklist every single time. Protect the truck, protect the driver, and time and compliance. Make sure you follow those mandates. Otherwise, you're going to lose your owner operator or your drivers because they're going to feel like you don't care about them for sure. Know the facilities, know where the regions are at, and the freight behavior. Ask all those factors to the broker. I don't know those people. I need to ask him. I need to know his whatever. That's the reason the phone calls are recording because my phone calls are being recorded. That's going to be my backup when I have to end up fighting this broker and say, nah, dude, because they're going to want to fight, And, I'm going to put complaints out there against that brokerage. I can give a rat's ass. If I asked you something and I can prove it, I'm definitely putting it out there. Consistency builds trust and better freight. If I can prove to that broker, and I'm trying to build a long-lasting relationship, not just with that broker or a direct shipper, if I'm actually getting direct freight from him, by me doing my consistently being on the mark, my word stands fit, and we're not violating that level of trust because it's all about money. Obviously, they're going to give me more routes, better freight, that type of stuff. Even as the driver, that's what they're going to see too. I used to get so much more freight all because I take anything and then they start giving me ones they knew were more precise. And it got more and more. Now, that means I had to step up my game and perform. But you as a dispatcher, you need to scale your drivers to understand they're making these marks, but them making their marks is going to be that you doing your job to meet those marks because you're buffering, you're doing the interview, right? You're making sure you're not being the wrong person for the right job. Make sure you're the right person for that given load. The bottom is the load you book is only as good as your ability to predict everything that happens after it's booked. That means you're saying, based on everything we just went through, if he's asking when you can be there and all that good stuff, you're absolutely hit the mark. And you got to do this. This ain't at random. You got to do this every time. You got to hit the mark so you can be there consistently performing so that they can expect that same thing out of you next time. Okay. That's the reason you're building relationships. If they know who you are, believe me, a lot of people remember who I am because I got this weird ass personality. I'm too direct or whatever. It's just the way I am. Like it or love it, leave it, hate it, whatever. It's your call. And I could care less on that point too. But that being said, the better you build your relationships with these people, that I know my driver. That's my responsibility to know him, know what his needs are, his expectations, his desires, and everything based on his home time, what his truck can do, what his capabilities are. By knowing that, because I interacted with my drivers, that gives me the understanding of what they are and understand all of them, however how many I have. Then I can be a better dispatcher for them that protects my reputation, that builds a better a brand for myself and what my company is, so that when I call them back again, they'll remember who I am. So that being said, keep this in the standard practice. For those that come up short on this, you don't need to be a dispatcher, because I've actually had you people in my life when I drove trucks. In fact, I wish you people never existed. But for you that are going to be professional, take this and heed this and use this to the best of your ability. And I promise you, it will work out for you coming and going. And you won't have no regrets at the end of the day. And you won't have somebody calling you or even threatening you. Dude, when I get back to that shop, I'm going to stomp your ass, because they do get that way. They're tired. They don't feel like playing games with you. They need to make money on that truck. That's the reason they're there. But anyways, I hope that helped. You need any more help other than that, go to Truck Driver Nation. Go to the homepage. Down the homepage, go down. There is QR codes. Do the Telegram one. Yes, you can call the phone numbers and all those. You may or may not get me, but if you hit Telegram, you get direct access to me. I know I can't help everybody in the world, but I try to do my best to help people directly and don't just try to pan them off to people that I work with. But anyways, that being said, I appreciate. I hope this helped you out and gave you some better understanding of how you need to actually, one, predict that time when you can be at that next pickup point. But these are the factors that you need to incorporate when doing that load to make sure you can be there, and what you're fixing to jump into is going to help you. So make sure you use 55 miles an hour. I would highly suggest that. That gives you enough buffer, but still make sure you've got enough buffer in there when you're booking each load. Don't assume anything. Go back and background check it. You'll build you a cheat chart from this city to this city. If you need a quick cheat sheet type of thing, whatever it takes for you to understand. Okay. You got a TMS. You run these loads over and over as a freight dispatcher. You'll get used to them. You just got to understand. You'll start learning the mileages. It's in your face every day, all day. And don't just trust the load board to have the right mileages on it. Okay. And make sure you understand one thing. I'm going to tell you this. They're making money from address to address, not zip code to zip code. Make sure you're getting your people paid right. Make sure when you're negotiating them loads, you shouldn't have to look up for a reason why to justify that load. This is what we have to get paid for that load. I don't care about the other 500 trucks. They're not my problem. This is what we have to get paid. I represent that truck. This is what he has told me that we have to get paid. Okay. Unless we've already pre-discussed something else in there to give that leverage and that leeway, whether it's a load or a backhaul is not a backhaul. It's literally another load. Don't be fooled. Well, it's a backhaul. You'll do better going the other direction. It has to pay or I can't take it. Okay. So freight dispatchers, y'all got to quit doing this stupid stuff. You're hurting the industry. Okay. And you'll end up, what you're going to do is you're going to end up killing your trucks. That's what's going to happen. So I'll leave it at that. If you can't figure that out and I have to go way off an explanation, that makes me going off ranting, and I don't feel like ranting. But anyways, this should help you out some. Make sure to reach out, get a hold of me at Truck Driver Nation. If you need the course and you need to learn how to be a freight dispatcher, I don't know of anybody else that gives you more detail, more content, more of the tools, access to owner operators, access to truck drivers, and everything that we do. So make sure to reach out with us, and don't come here to waste our time, because we're not going to fill in your answers. We literally put this out here so you can see, obviously, the in-depth that we try to give you in every particular point, learning how to be a freight dispatcher. But anyways, outside that, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Be blessed. Need rest, get some rest. Drivers out there on the road, be careful. If you don't want to be on that road no more, get a hold of us, and I can actually show you how to get off the road and get back home, working from home, and be with your family. And we do actually have opportunities where you can work for us, but we'll go over that when you reach out and talk to us. Everybody be blessed, and we'll talk to you soon.